Welcome to the Hobby Maker website. My name's Lisa, and in this month's feature, I'm going to teach you how to take this to these in some very simple and easy steps. Today, what we're going to be doing is a single sheet that is stamped using a cluster stamp. So something similar to this, where you've got multiple flowers in a rectangle, preferably a square or a rectangle, probably work better for this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one sheet and then we're going to cut it horizontally, cut it vertically, and that's going to give us 4 card fronts. So the first thing we want to do is, I like to use a slightly thicker card than a slightly thicker paper than printer paper, just so it's a little bit more substantial. I am using Memento Tuxedo Black today, but you can use any black ink that will work with whatever pens you've decided to colour in with. Today we're using alcohol markers. All I'm doing is I'm taking the pad to the stamp rather than the stamp to the pad, because that gives me a much better coverage. And then we're going to stamp it all across, horizontally across the page. So you don't need to be exact with this, and you might want to hang it off the edge just a touch so that you've got no white space. And then you're going to press firmly so that all of that lovely stamp gets transferred. And if you leave it just for a few seconds, the ink will then seep down into the paper as well. There we go. And it's not perfect, but that's okay. We can rectify that with the coloured markers that we're going to use, so don't panic. Okay, so I'm inking it up again now, trying to get all that coverage, especially where I know there's a little bit there that I've missed. And again, all we're going to do is stamp it right next to that one. Now you can overlap it a touch, okay, and apply firm pressure. If you've got a larger stamping platform, by all means, so that you get a completely crisp stamp, you can use that. Today we're just using fingers and pressure. Okay, there we go. And one last one, that's gonna hang over the edge there. So we only need to do half of this stamp. There we go. And that should complete the horizontal line. Now, obviously, when you turn this around, you're only going to need to do one stamp here and one stamp at the side. So now we have our stamped images. We can start to bring them to life and colour them. Now, when I am doing, when I'm colouring, especially flowers actually, I always like to do a contact sheet. So I design what colour my flowers and my leaves are going to be, and I write down the colours that I'm using. So that way it's just easier to remember if you're halfway through it and you have to go for something, and then you put your crayons there, your pencils away, your pens away, and then you can come back to it. So all we're going to do is taking my flower number 1, which is light orange and tender pink. I like to use the lighter colour as a base for the flower itself. So I will just simply, in lines, I find if you colour in lines all the way down in one direction, then you'll get a nice even colour there. And you won't get lines that have kind of gone over each other and darker in certain areas and not in others. The middle of the flower here, I'm doing the same for all of them. So on my contact sheet here, I've got potato brown and raw umber. So we'll do that in the middle first. So again, laying down potato brown. It does fill the whole of that in. And once you've got your base colours down, that's when you can start to add your interest. So all I'm going to do today on all of the flowers and all of the leaves is I'm going to do a bit of pointillism. So that is just a fancy word for lots of dots to give you light and shade. So as you randomly put dots in there, I'm going to dot around the outside a bit more than the centre because that's where the shadow would be from the petals. And then I am going to make my petals darker pink on the outside, so lots more dots at the end before dotting less towards the middle and nothing towards the centre. So this way, because when you see a flower, it doesn't go pink and a harsh line into another colour. So this is just a way of intimating that using the dots to give some light and shade into the petal. And that is our first flower, almost complete. Now obviously there's a lot of flowers to do in this particular design, so I'm going to do one more of each of these types of flowers and then we'll come back. So flower number 2 is rose red and vermilion. So I'm going to start with the vermilion and I am going to fill in the petals and repeat the process that I just did before. And as you can see there, even though that outer petal hadn't stamped properly, once you've actually defined it with your colour, no one will ever know. And once you get going with these, you can take as much time as you like. It's a really mindful exercise, this one. But if you want to rush, then do it faster. And again, just heavier on the outside of the petal with the second colour, which is rose red. Heavier on the outside, and those dots getting further apart from each other on the way in. And then we've got our third type of flower, which is fruit pink and pastel peach. So starting with the pastel peach, filling in, again that base layer, that solid layer, and again with the darker colour, going in on all the ends and dotting lighter to the centre. And last but not least, we have the leaf. So the leaf is olive green and bronze green, and again putting in the base, tracing around the outline of that stamped image. And filling it in. And that coordinating colour. I usually do all the way around the edges first to give them that darkness around the edge. And then I follow the natural vein in the leaf itself quite closely with the dots. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to cut the bits that we need from the sheet. So you get your paper trimmer, and you can absolutely eyeball this, or you can take your card base and just make sure that where you're going to cut fits. So we've got 10.5 on the card base there. So that is where I am going to cut it. I'm going to cut it at 10, so there's a border. There we go, 10 centimetres. There we go. And then we have 15, so 14.5 here. Now we've got 4 card fronts, and we can have them any way we would like. So all you need to do is get your sentiments on, and these are all going to be thank you cards. Thank you. And these are really great if you want to be able to keep them in the cupboard so that if you've got an emergency card that you need, or you've got a lot of people to say thank you for, say after an event that people have come to, parties, weddings, things like that. It's nice to send homemade thank you cards. Okay, so we're putting glue in all 4 corners and then just a little squib around the edge to stick it down to the card. Got a nice little border all the way around it. You can ink around the edges of these cards, but I like these ones to stay nice and clean looking. These cards are really good for batch making as well, so if you do have to do a lot, you can mix up the stamps that you're using across the middle, as long as they are kind of something that hasn't got a defined shape. So by that I mean something that tessellates, or a pattern, or something that you can stamp along in a row rather than a standalone single shape. This will work across that cross shape with a multitude of stamps, not just flowers. And there we have it, 4 matching note cards. Sisters, not twins. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you, thank you, thank you.